Let's see. Again, we'll have a drawing before the lunch break or some pretty cool prizes offered by our vendors. Okay, so that is it for announcements. I think we have Karen Bowers from me up first.
Hi, I'm Karen Bowers. I'm representative of the ADE Connect. How many of you are entity administrators?
Can't hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm Karen Bowers. I'm with the ADE representing the ADE Connect team. I was just curious how many of you are entity administrators? Okay, so you'll be excited to see what I'm going to show you today. This is an overview of some of the changes we've got coming to you in our new entity administration application. So we hear you. We understand and know your frustrations using that tool. I'm not used to, so I get it. So we do hear you. So some of the things we are going to fix for you and make your life easier are cross-browser compatibility. We are eliminating the requirement for ID. That alone is you'll have real-time updates. You know, today when you go in and you ask someone and you hit submit, and you go back in and it's still hanging out there, all gone. We'll be able to do new account creations in a bulk environment. You'll be able to create an account, create another account, create another account. Then you can grab those accounts, existing or new, and bulk add roles. Huge, right? Yes. And bulk remove roles when you need to. And then we have something new called user group. So here's our new landing page. You'll still come in from ADE Connect. You'll see the link for entity administration. You'll click that, you'll come to this landing page. Now this new field you see, user group, I'll explain what that is. But if you are an an entity admin at the parent entity, meaning district or LEA or charter holder, you will be able to create user groups. But all the other entity administrators will see user management. They'll see we have a link to the ADE Connect report. We have parent entity, as I said, is the district or LEA level entity. We'll have that icon there is find any entity admin. You have that today on ADE Connect. So if you need to find an entity administrator where you're not the EA, you can do that. You'll be able to provide feedback on what you think of this new application, which is separate from support tickets, but we're not expecting a lot of support. It'll be all good. You'll have some video help and some documentation. You're linked back to ADE Connect, and then you're logged. We also will have the link right here in this application to what's new on ADE Connect, newest bulletins and updates. What we're trying to do is allow you to stay in this application without jumping off into ADE Connect. So we're going to have to find information. We're going to bring it all in here. Okay? So again, cross-browser compatibility. Currently, only IE can be used, but we are eliminating that requirement. Real-time updates, you know, today when you create a new account and you add roles, or it takes a good 30 to 60 minutes for you to get your confirmation email that that has taken place. And it takes a good 30 to 60 minutes for your user to see the application on ADE Connect. That'll go away. It'll be instantaneous. So any updates you make to new accounts will be instantaneous. Your communications you'll receive, which we're not going to change because I think you like those confirmation emails. You'll get those right away. And again, when you create new ADE Connect accounts for your users, that'll be instantaneous. Here's your bulk new account creation. So let me go back. So you'll click the user management icon there. From there, you'll go to the user management screen, and from there, you'll see create users. When you do that, this mode will pop up, and it will allow you to add your users. Required fields are indicated, pretty much the same as you have today. Then you'll be able to hit add row and put in your next one, and add row and put in your next one. You'll be able to get a drop down of every entity where you are the entity administrator. You can associate them to that entity right in the screen. You don't have to go back in and do it. Then you'll click submit, and it'll give you a message as to whether there's an issue with that user. He already exists, or it's good to go, and it will add to your indicated entity. So you can see you can do multiple entities here and multiple users. That's a big one, right? Okay. Good, I heard an awesome. I like that. Then what you can also do is, if you want to bulk add roles to those users at your entities that you manage, you can do that too. So we've highlighted there where you would click edit, and it would highlight all the users in that entity. And then you would click add roles or remove roles or users group. And that would open up a bulk screen. So for the roles you add to those users, it'll just get applied. You don't have to worry about going in user by user by user. It'll be a one-shot update for you. Now here's something new we have. It's called user groups. So user groups is meant to assist you with creating a group of roles that you can quickly disseminate across your entities. It will be at the entity administrator, who is the parent at the parent. Like I said, where the parent is the LEA district charter holder level. So you as the entity administrator at that level will have the power to create a user group, like a teacher user group. You would add the roles under that user group that would be very common across the board for a teacher. Then you can push that out at that time to all of your entities. Then the entity administrator at the school level or related organization level can grab that and bulk add their users to it. Done. How's that sound? That sound like something you'd like to have? Okay. And then you can also unassign the roles in those user groups. So there's no more, you don't have to go in again, entity by entity, user by user, and do it like that. This cuts your time down. It's pretty straightforward. And I think that'll be really useful for you. And then if you were to click edit here, you can see the roles that are assigned. You can sort for what are the unassigned roles that I might want to add, what are the roles I might have that I want to unassign. You can do that there, see the roles that are available, and assign them to the user group. And once that user group is disseminated, the entity admin at that school level can manage the users. And they'll get instantaneous access to the application that those roles give them access to in ADE Connect. Any questions for me? Yes.
Currently, you can delete the roles, but you cannot delete the entity. Will we ever be able to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have that for you. This is still a work in progress. The team I'm working with has done a great job getting up to this point, but that is one of the things on the agenda. You will be able to disassociate that entity from that user. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
I had to create one yesterday, but ADE Connect had the feature already for a different district, but she left that district and came to us.
So-
I just recreated it one under our district.
Nope. Well, you will, but what you'll be able to do, let me go back. You can put that existing user in here, and it'll populate with that existing user's information, and then you can decide which one of your entities you need to pull that into. So you don't have to recreate them as far as typing in a new account. You can just reassociate them. Yeah, that's coming as well. Yeah.
Make sure you repeat the question.
She wanted to know if we'd be able to update email addresses. So yes, you will be able to, yes. Especially if you create a new user and you expect them to get their notice. They say they didn't get their new account notice. You notice their email address is incorrect. Well, today you can't do that, correct? But in this application, you will be able to update their email address, yes. That's another big one that you guys encounter, right? So what we're trying to do in this phase one is to grab those big issues that you struggle with every day. Only can create one user at a time. You can only add a relationship one at a time. You can only add a role. We're eliminating those big issues that I know come into support and you guys are frustrated with. So do you feel we're on the right track? Are we hitting those main points? Especially that browser compatibility. Yeah. So great. Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to comment back on the email. I think it's great that we can pick up a user from another district, but at the point we're putting them in, if that functionality isn't ready to change the email, that we're gonna still have to create a new one. Because-
Well, when we roll this out, it'll be there. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
End of February.
okay.
You can't wait, can you? Anything else? So I just gave you some highlights. You as entity administrators are on my focus group. So you will get a chance to review with me hands-on in a focus group review. But it was real important for the ADE to let you know we heard you, we're working on it, and I'm glad that you feel we're on track with it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Let me add one thing. Thank you. Told you I wasn't going to be here. But I have to come. Can you hear me? No? Okay. You asked a question that is very interesting. Because all of you need to understand her question very clearly. Is that ADE does not own, with ADE Connect, any control of users. Okay, my HR is on me, so you know it's coming to audit. Because HR has figured out that you have a bunch of duplicate people in many districts, so you guys aren't doing your jobs. As entity administrators, when they leave you, you should don't either turn off their controls, but I can't do that, right? The HR said, well, you should do this, you should police this. It's not my job, it's your job. ADE has no knowledge of who leaves and goes anywhere. That's what common logon has been a problem. So I just want to remind you all, because I imagine this is going to become a state auditor thing. Because it's a big deal, because it's your access. And if you haven't watched, the increased worry about cybersecurity, this is the part of the thing that you want to control. We don't have access, and I can't control it. I've told my HR that, and I don't like that. They said, well, you should, that's where the big AD. I said, no, it's local control. We got written up by the Auditor General on common law 10 years ago, or more than that. And it's still there. because it's so hard to get rid of. But we're moving quickly to get rid of that on AD Connect. I don't want, it's your guys' responsibility, how you do your process in your districts, your business. Now, I did want to thank them, because when you told me last month, whenever I was here, that was a problem, I really appreciate you telling me that. That's what you guys need to tell me. Things that are, but that was a total rewrite. So I know February is going, oh, this was really hard, and this team worked really hard. And really, I know you're pretty much, I've learned your peaks. You're out of your peak. So we'll be done for your next peak, which is next year when it all becomes crazy. Except for the odds and nails that happen every day, but your big loads. So our objective was to get this done and into you so that you can test it and play with it before next school year.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm guilty, I'm an administrator, and I have not disabled anybody when they leave our district. So what is the functionality? Disable, delete?
I think you need to ask your district what they want to do, because again, this is your control.
But I mean, what is the functionality on the account?
Currently?
Where, yes.
Currently, you're supposed to go into that user's account under that entity and remove their application roles.
Okay.
What that will do is remove that entity from ADE Connect. So there's two portals. There's the ADE Connect portal where the user goes in, sees their entity, sees their application link. And then there's what you guys have. You have ADE Connect as well. But then you control what's on there by being an entity administrator in that application. So you're supposed to go in, remove their roles. You are correct. You can't delete the entity today. Somebody mentioned that. So you remove their roles. The user now goes into ADE Connect, doesn't see the entity, can't get to the application. And then the system will come through in 7 days and say, oh, in the entity administration application, there's no roles for this user under this entity, and we'll remove the relationship.
Okay.
But in the new one, you can do it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Jeff Powell from ADE, and I just wanted to add that. So while that is true today, that you are not able to actually disassociate a user from your entity, one of the new functionalities that exists in the new app is a simple remove user function. It will automatically remove all of the roles associated to that user and that user's association to any of the entities that you choose to remove. So you could do this on a single entity basis. So if you wanted to remove a user from a particular school, for example, if you wanted to remove this user from your LEA completely, that functionality is available as well. So this is really meant to streamline that remove user process, knowing that that is a function that we would like you to perform.
And you're right, a lot of the EAs aren't sure what to do today. So if that helped with explaining the current process, I'm really glad.
Let me ask one question. Would this group, and then you can come back to you and let me know, would like ADE create a policy for you to use in your department, whether you use it or not is your business? Let us know on this so that we can work on something that you could use, because I said that you should work locally, because that's my job, is not to, but I understand that that means you'd have to create something you're not aware of because your boss doesn't have any idea. So let us know. It's not that I'm not trying to push it off and say it's not my job, but my boss makes it very clear that we're there to serve, not to tell you guys how to operate in the world you live in.
So when you do public search, it comes up with your school, it lists your principal, your assistant principal, and I was told that that information comes from Common Logon. When is that going to go to ADE Connect?
Okay, wait, say that again.
So on the public search, it lists your principal's name, your assistant principal's name, and different staff. And I was told that comes from Common Logon instead of ADE Connect permissions here. When will that switch? Because I don't want to do all this work on Common Logon knowing that it's going away and it's going to go to the entity admin of what we're doing now.
So you mean I'm moving all the AD Common Logon apps in?
Just one up there.
Is that what?
We're gonna tag team.
So, yeah, I'm sorry. I think what you're referring to is potentially, well, what was, used to be called HQT.
No, enterprise.
No?
No, she's talking about enterprise, and it's a function of enterprise.
Right.
I did it. I had to because we had so many tickets open. I actually worked what my help desk did. And in fact, some of you got calls from me saying, what are you trying to do? But that functionality, when it goes away, will go away. The common logon, our goal is to get rid of it this year. But all of us have great goals. And then when you unwind something, you find a mousetrap you didn't know existed. So our goal is to get rid of common logon so you don't have to manage two. I understand that's a pain. We're trying to work all this in parallel with limited dollars. I know you're saying, well, you got a lot of money. But it takes a lot of people to do all this. And so I want to get common logon shut up, but the problem is, so you know, in those buttons you push on common logon, there's hard coding that calls Active Directory. Nobody does that. That's not how you write code. But they actually embed code into Active Directory links instead of calling functions, which means I have to rewrite it and create a bridge to go to the new system. And that, I know that sounds complicated, and it is. But that is what we're trying to do to get rid of the double work of common logon. Believe me, that's after I did common logon help center work. That was when I went and told these guys this is gonna die. Because wow, have you done that for 15 years? That sucks.
Elite right now is in common logon.
We'll move elites. All applications that are still living will be moved to 80 Connect.
So all of that,
All the stuff
they're gonna be transferred
to
from
80 Connect.
how to recreate that.
And we're not rewriting all the applications yet, but we're having to build a bridge so the system thinks that it works. Because a lot of the systems that we're talking about, some of the nutrition and food systems, are written in Windows 2000, which does not work on the technology we use. So we're going to have to build bridges. Because we know we can't rewrite every application that's on common logon. That's way too, that's like 5 years. But, so that will help. I know 2 systems is hard for you guys. I got it. I know. And especially when I saw how much, after you explained it to me. And we continue to listen. We have a great team. Thank you for these guys, because they listen to you. And that's what we're here for. So we'll try to make improvements. And that's what she's going to talk about now, so I'm going to turn it over.
All right, thank you, Karen, Mark, the team. So now we have Sherry Fimbres, Senior Account Manager, Senior Fraud Program Manager, to talk to us about AZ or AZ Ed's known issues.
Maybe I'll use this one. I have it quicker. All right. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about AZEDs and some of the known issues that we do have. And also that I'm going to also cover some of the new tools that are coming. So we're still working through with any new large, I call this an enterprise application. There are going to be some issues that you work through, especially in your first year. And I think, and you'll see in the next slide, we're getting a lot better, I think, in being responsive to the issues, but we still have some items that we're working through. So our current list right now, we have an issue with our STED 72 report that will be coming in mid-January. There is an issue with the incorrect, the display of attendance for students on that particular report, and that's specifically for students with concurrent enrollment. And I know that all of you have experienced issues, most likely, with our reporting. So when you go into the AZED's dashboard, into reports, we have been struggling with some performance issues. Performance issues are not very easy to tackle. They're typically, I call it an onion. There's many layers to it. There's both the actual hardware, the physical server environment that our report servers are sitting on. In addition to that is how our actual code is written. So there's kind of those two larger layers that the team is focused on addressing. We've actually been able to pull in, we were initially hoping we wouldn't have to do this until January, but we know it's critical for us to address, and so we're really, we've been heads down. There's a number of activities that are taking place or have already started, and we're making progress in trying to get some of the hardware, the server pieces done yet in December before we leave for the holidays. We'll also be starting some of the development work, and we'll continue to wrap that up in the January timeframe. So, one, I'd just like to thank you for your patience, your feedback. I'm sure it is frustrating when you go in to pull a report, and if you have to wait a long time for that report to render, that can be very frustrating. So I do want to just thank you for your patience while we've worked through improving the performance within our reporting server. So again, it's critical to us, and it is a very high priority. We also have another change coming with ADM. There are some students marked as tuition peer code 2 that are actually appearing as fundable, and that they shouldn't be. And so that fix is actually coming in mid-December. And we've had a couple of integrity rules that we've also had issues with. The 2002, the students with multiple enrollments at the same school, they were incorrectly failing. That is targeted for next week. And then we had a number of our SPED rules that released, which is why it's a little late getting in. We did have a challenge with our deployment steps last night. And so what that actually caused was the integrity process that typically runs every night. It did not trigger, and it didn't run. And so the team is working on getting that integrity process to run. And once that runs, along with our aggregation or ACE, the calculation engine, we will have our updated integrity reports and ADM figures. So it was targeted to the end, and if everything runs smoothly, now that we have everything re-kicked off today, we will see a refresh of those numbers later this afternoon, and then it will run again this evening as planned. So that's one of the, we have moved now, so we're doing daily integrity and our ACE, being able to calculate ADM on a daily basis. So that really keeps the development team, that keeps us on our toes, because there's a lot that has to go into making that happen on a daily basis. And then finally, just for the REST API, we're actually, we're doing very good. So initially, we were, there was a lot of transactions. I know the beginning of the year, it probably felt a little crazy, but AZ's API is up and running, and it really is amazing when you look at the amounts and the millions of transactions that we're processing day in and day out. That's thanks to all of you, our vendors. ADE collaboratively, we've really, it's amazing what we've been able to accomplish. Tier 2 support. So they have the fun job of dealing with all of our AZ's tickets, and I don't know if you can see that. Actually, our Tier 2, they're in the back of the room. Irvin and Andrew. Hey guys. So I don't know if you can see. So the tier 2 oximeter. So we have, so what this is actually showing is the number of tickets resolved is higher than the number that were submitted in November. So they have really, they have stayed, heads to the ground. They are still trying to crank away and get those tickets resolved. And what that means is, there was a queue and they're really trying to close the gap. One of our focus areas has been on support, so that our turnaround times are, within a day or two, that we're very quickly responding to those tickets as they come in. And so one of the things we're putting metrics behind it, we're tracking it, we're trying to understand those problem areas so that, if we can eliminate a problem area, that's the ideal, but where we can't, we still want to turn that around quickly. So hopefully you're seeing a difference, and that it's not, just a picture, but that you're seeing the results of all that hard work that goes into keeping up with those tickets that are open on a daily basis. Okay, before I go into the new student analysis tool, does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Tuition 2,
Yes.
that are showing as fundable.
Yes.
Would they have been included then in our 40 ADM report?
That will be a question for school finance. They would have been in the report. How it was handled on the payment side, that would be a school finance question. We've been aware of the issue, so how they've accommodated that, I'm not 100% sure.
And then the other question I have is, our 40th was October 24th. When I went to the ADM report and I selected October 24th, the report generated as projected 40th. It wasn't until I got to the date of November 1st that the report showed as actual 40th. I was curious, and the numbers were different.
Okay, I am going to let school finance, I apologize, but when it comes to the ADM specifically for those questions, I will refer that to school finance. So, I don't know if we're capturing. Okay, great. So we captured it, and anything else?
There's a question from online about a tool for fixing orphaned records.
A tool for fixing orphaned records. I would need to know a little bit more specifically what they're looking for when they're talking about an orphaned record. I'm just gonna, okay, yeah, if we could get some more details, they can call into the help desk and submit it, and we'll definitely follow up.
Orphan record is probably, like, I noticed when I looked at a student in our power school, it sends the W4 code, but in integrity, it'll say attendance is out of date. So I gotta go back to power school.
I gotta go back to Power School and delete those absences before that date. It won't delete it on its own if I just leave it. So I don't know if I need it to refresh or do anything, but what I'm having to do is go back into the student record, tell it to delete it.
Okay.
That's the only way I can find that. But if it's not in your SIS and it's on your report, that would be an orphan.
If it's on our report, it would be because your SIS submitted. So I would think this is, you have a after session in the afternoon, right, your vendors? So whoever's on, who asked this question should probably ask this of their vendor. And then if it's a bigger issue of the vendor, then the vendor will talk to us in our conversations.
Yeah, actually, we have a meeting with the vendors, actually on Monday, and actually, I'm gonna add that topic to our vendor discussion. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next topic, reconciliation. So there are two different categories of reconciliation that we know are important to you. One is the CIS to AZ, so being able to reconcile your CIS to AZs. And that's actually is a topic we will be covering with the vendors on Monday. And part of it is, how they're reconciling the data that they submit to the data that actually lands in AZs. The other piece is being able to go in and actually see your student reconciliation, so to actually reconcile at a student level. And so to solve for that, so that you don't have to go into multiple reports to try to trace down all the details for a specific student, we're actually developing a student analysis tool. So the student analysis tool will have, again, all the different data submissions related to a student. So your special enrollment SPED, school, your student school association, support programs, tuition payer, the district of residence, dropout recovery program, ELL, FTE, and a new functionality that's also coming is the Grand Canyon Diploma. I'm going to go ahead and actually move into the next set of screens because you'll actually, so the next set of slides, these are the mock-ups that we're using to develop the tool. So development has started, but we are not, the actual release of the tool will be in Q3. We do plan to release the tool in phases. So as it makes sense, as we have functionality that we believe will be valuable to you, we'll go ahead and continue to release it as new functionality becomes available. All right, so the first screen within the student analysis tool is just your search. So you'll be able to either enter your AZs, the student ID, or you can enter other demographic information about the student to actually look up a student. You'll select the student that you're wanting to do the analysis on. You'll notice towards the top, in fact, the very first row, you'll see the student ID, the number, retired, and an I after it. So that's, so we will be including any IDs that have been retired as well. So if you have a student that has duplicate IDs and you've merged them into a single ID, what we do with the ID that's no longer being used is we actually retire that ID. And within the tool, you will have visibility into those IDs and the transactions that were submitted under that particular ID. With that said, when we do a merge, we're still taking all the data for that student and merging it within a single ID. Okay. The I is just, it's an informational icon. So if you looked at that and you were wondering, well, what does that mean? We'll have a description and text to help explain what that means. And you'll see us use that a little bit more within the application. I'm a huge believer in applications as best you can. They should be intuitive. You shouldn't have to go and pick up a 30-page binder to figure out how to use the tool. So usability and reducing the number of clicks it takes you to complete a task are really important when we're developing our tools.
The report that's attached to the retired, can it list what is now the active ID? And also if there are additional IDs that were merged that belong to that single student, because sometimes there's actually more than two.
Absolutely.
And it would be good to know, hey, this is the one you should be using, and These other ones were found, and that would be good information to have.
Okay, that's great feedback. So we'll go ahead and take that, and thank you. Okay, so oh, go ahead.
If you are asking for more feedback, it would be great to also search by districts in the ID on that first page.
Okay.
Because I think most of us know our district ID and it's much easier to copy paste as opposed to filling out the name, the birthday, the gender.
Okay. So district ID would be another
As a
search.
search. Since you're already feeling it as a result, you can probably have access to it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, after you have selected a student, you'll get additional student demographics about that particular student. In addition to that, you're going to see a display of all the entities that that student is associated to, either via an enrollment or a membership or a student school association. So we'll list them all. You can either look at all of them, or if maybe you just want the information that's pertaining to a particular school, you'll be able to highlight that and just drill into that set of information.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you just define all? Are you talking all across the state?
Great question, thank you.
Can you repeat that question?
No. So the question was, will you display all information for a student that's available across the state? Great question, thank you. We will only display the information that you're authorized to see for that student. So if you're authorized to see it and those schools, you will. If you're not authorized, then you will not be able to see that entity for that student. Great question, thank you.
But then how are we ever going to be able to resolve concurrent enrollment? Because right now, my problem is, if my student appears as a concurrent enrolled somewhere, and it's a mystery land, how will I ever know to contact the district and say like, hey, the student is with us, if it's good to this role, please do it. If I don't have information, how will I do that?
You go to identity search and click on more over on the right, the link, it opens up what districts, what schools in this fiscal year are funding that student.
I get that, but like if we're putting it all together to make the student useful, it would be great if I don't have to have every possible application open to figure out everything that's wrong with the student.
Okay, so that's a good, so the question was around concurrent enrollment and what data do I have access or visible to. So I will take that and I'll follow up to see. Obviously, we have to work within statute and policy, but we'll see what we can do in terms of.
It used to be listed on the integrity, what school they were concurrent with.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's all we need.
Okay, so you just want to know the other school. Okay, great.
I believe they listed it by CTDS.
By CTDS. Okay. Excellent. So on the student analysis, so after you've clicked on your student analysis, you're going to come back with actually quite a bit of detail about that student. And again, if you have any suggestions as to how to best arrange the information that is most helpful for you, feel free to give us that feedback. This is, at the end of the day, this is your tool, and we want to make it usable for you. So right now, the way that it works is that you come back after the student analysis. It's going to display a section for DOR, for all the different categories of data attached to that student. You'll have the ability to, I'm going to go to the next screen here. You'll have the ability to either display all records for that student, or you can say, I just want to see the current records for that student. So maybe I'm etc. You did an update, you did a delete, and you did an update again. So where did you net out? What is the current status for that student? So you'll be able to see either just the current status, or if you want to see all of the transactions related to that student, you'll be able to do that. In addition to that, we are going to give you the ability to export the student details, and you'll be able to select, you can either export all the data, or maybe you just want the demographics, the DOR, and the Student School Association, and the support programs. You'll be able to just check off those particular transaction types and include that in your export. This is actually the second part of that screen. You will be able to expand and collapse.
What is the resource ID on that, and what would we use it for?
So that is the resource ID is attached to the transaction. So sometimes when we're actually troubleshooting an issue in the transaction that's been sent from the SIS to ASENS, it helps having that resource ID and allows us, that's more of a, it helps us from a technical support standpoint. So if we're needing to track down what has happened with those transactions, those resource IDs are very valuable. And a lot of times we will ask for that. And so it's just, and some are used to using it within the LEAs and some aren't. So if that doesn't, you don't have to worry about that, but it can be helpful for us when we're troubleshooting. Go ahead.
Is this showing us what's been sent, what's landed, what's passed, what's failing?
This is going,
what stage?
This is going to show you everything that has been sent about that student. If a transaction doesn't, has failed, it's not necessarily going to end up here if it was rejected altogether. But if we received an update or a delete or you know, any of the other successful transaction types, it will display here. Go ahead.
Is there any development for adding test scores to this analysis tool?
So right now, we are focused on the data that's actually being submitted through ASCUS, and that's really the focus of this tool right now. And if we extend, I don't know, Mark, if you want to answer that one. That's
No, test scores will be on Easy Dash, and Easy Dash is live, and that's where you should look for test scores. In the future, potentially there could be matching up of data, but that would be dependent on what ESSA requires, which everybody here should be aware as we're working, which is Every Student Succeeds Act, which is what replaced No Child Left Behind. And as everybody in this room knows, we're going through a transition with the president and the Department of Ed. So more to come, we don't know. But I don't ever see us pulling test scores and matching up on this. But if you want to see, I'm not saying to turn off what you're asking for, but I want to understand your use case more of what you're actually going to do with it. And if you could write that up for us and get it to us, I would be able to analyze and see where it'd be most appropriate to give you the data that you need. But this is just this is purely to make sure that you feel comfortable with ADM and whatever things are going on with your student.
Yeah, I want to come back to your question about so can you give me maybe just some examples, and I might not know some of the detail, so that way I can make sure we do respond to your question.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that we just kind of want to know what stage is this. Are these going to be kids that just landed, or they're already gone through integrity and are passing?
Actually, it's going to be both.
Okay, good. Then that's good, and it'll flag if it's, I don't want to see the DOR on there with no comment that it's failing. You know what I'm saying? I want to know if it's passing or failing
Yes.
when I look at this.
Okay. Actually, you bring up a really good point, and I'm going to show you it here in one of the next slides. Because right now we have it kind of separated out, but it might be, if there was the ability for us to merge some of the content together, that might have to be a phase 2. So we have all of the information that's landed, and actually on this is still more the verification piece, and the rows that are highlighted in blue, that's going to be your current record. So again, depending on how you filtered this particular view, if you're looking at everything, you'll still have a visual cue of what the current records are. And so so there actually are 3 tabs. So there's the data verification piece, we have another tab for integrity, and then also for ADM, so that you can see all your historical integrity rules that have passed or failed at the student level within this view. Okay. And the next, and this is the ADM tab, and this will display all the ADM, the historical ADM that's been associated to that student. So again, the thought behind it is that one-stop shopping for your student. It's both your data verification, your integrity, your ADM. And today, I know you're going to multiple reports to try to piece this together. So the goal was that you did have to at least go to multiple reports. But with that said, if there's other suggestions along the way, you guys are the users. And so if you think of something, a way to, I can't guarantee we can do it, but don't hesitate to submit some of your comments so that we can make the tool better. Once we have some of these foundational components in place, it could be something that's really easy for us to do, and it would absolutely make sense. Or maybe if it's a larger enhancement, it's still something for us to consider as we progress. So, don't be shy in giving us that type of feedback.
Awesome, thank you. Is the ADM that's going to show for that particular student going to be the limited ADM? And if it's limited, is it going to explain why it was limited?
It doesn't have why, but it does show both. This is the same as your ADM, is it your ADM 15? So it's the same data that's in the ADM 15 currently, and it shows both, I believe the 15 shows both the ADM and what the limiting factor is and what the limited value is as well.
So the limited value will be what we'll display here on this tool?
Yes, it's one of the columns. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, the limited ADM is the very last column. All right. So any other questions about the student analysis tool? Go ahead.
When do you anticipate this being available?
So again, we have started a development, and right now our time frame is Q3. As we tighten up our let's say by end of March. But again, as we tighten up our schedule, we will definitely share what the actual timeline is. And even before end of March, you will start, I would hope that we would have at least had the first version of the tool. So like, for example, that data verification page, even if we have a good subset of transaction types where we've been able to take 3 reports and get them into a view, we're not going to wait until we get all of them. But we're gonna go ahead and start releasing it so you can start using it. And maybe it doesn't do everything, but at least it will condense a couple of the steps for you. So,
We sent an update that happened out to ASCUS.
that
What was
for,
the question?
will an update be sent?
When this is starts becoming available, if it is spring, let everybody know that even when they're checked, they'll be ready.
Yes, so if you haven't signed up for the AZEDS blog, we do, we have really tried to be diligent about communicating our issues, new reports, new releases, and that's one avenue. And then, that would probably be your best avenue, because I actually go in and I'll bug the team if I don't see a blog that's ready for my approval, and make sure that we are keeping you informed of the enhancements that are coming your way. So even let's say we implement the initial release, if I had a feel for what that the next release date was, I would communicate it within the blog. Yeah.
Is everybody in this room using the blog? Awesome.
All right.
Thank you for that. That's going to be super awesome, and we're all really excited to see it. So the earlier the better. Okay, I think we are going to take a little break. Don't forget to see Claire about job information, and I believe school finance. If they are not out there yet, we'll be here shortly to sign up for the 15-minute session. As you're walking out the break, if you are not receiving emails from ADP, please come and see Steph.
We don't drink that, so.
Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. Did everyone get signed up as a school finance analyst? No. There was a little bit of miscommunication, so Sara is going to go ahead and do the school finance presentation, after which we will take another short break, and we will sign up at that time once the analysts actually arrive. Yes, so come out here after her presentation in about an hour and get signed up then. And again, we're going to try to give priority to those rural areas that have physical trouble making it in, but you can figure that out with your analyst at that time. There you go.
Actually, I'd rather neither. I'm going to try microphones, but I get over it. Here I am. I'll give you guys a second to get used to my indoor voice today. I have been sick all week, and I have taken exactly the recommended dose of Dayquil. So forgive me if I sound groggy, and if you need me to speak up, aside from my general shyness with microphones, definitely tell me, because I know what I sound like this week. It's real, it's happening. One of the things I do when I show up here, because it's a Friday, I walk you through a fake School Finance Friday, so I moved some of my topics around to give you that fake School Finance Friday feeling. It's real. And the other thing I wanted to tell you was the first time I came and actually talked to you guys, I think I counted my time in AD and membership days, and I was somewhere like 43 membership days, and today is my 13-month anniversary, so we can't even count the days anymore. But for me, one of the things that I've noticed month over month is when I try to build models for Lyle and say this is what ADM looks like, this is what the live data looks like, every month the model gets outdated. And the best model we have right now, it's not even a model, it's just a reconciliation tool that Sherry and I worked on a few months ago. And even it's bare bones, and I think that's the only reason it's still working for us is because it's bare bones. So the news is really different every single month, so I actually have something to say every month. This month, I think the news, the theme is we're all spread a little thin, but things are looking up, so that's the theme. So all the bullets I took down from talking to Susie last month is I'm going to give you a tour of our website and some of the things we're trying to do to improve the state of the live data. And I'll walk you through my fake School Finance Friday. Then I want to just touch on 915's current payments, and then some of our bigger, I don't want to say problem children, because it's more like, I don't want to say bugs either, but the things that are bugging me and my analysts. So we'll get to that after. So if this was a School Finance Friday, I'd start with good morning, and then I would stall for time because I want you guys to have time to refresh and try to get on the page. So this is me stalling for time. Normally I would have been here every other week with either Sherry or Stacy from IT, because they would bring you IT updates. Right after that, I would tell you how to get in contact with us. Right now, we're really loving using our emails, because it holds us accountable better in terms of time. My hope every time is that you and I do our work really, really well, and your ADM is just moving the way you want it to, your data looks awesome, 100% the way you love it. That way you never have to, or your business manager never has to talk to Sheen about why you paid your payment. So our goal is to get it in the front, ahead of all problems. That's why my name is at the top in a bigger font. Other things I would point out right at the beginning of School Finance Friday is how to keep in touch with us, how to keep up to date. I do everything on my website. So AZED, so that's ArizonaEd.gov/finance. And if Lyle puts out a memo or some kind of an email, we put a copy of it on the website as well. So if you haven't signed up for our constant contact email list, at least bookmark our website and check in once a week. The other things that we found tremendously helpful, and Sherry and Stacy would have told you to sign in if this was a real School Finance Friday, is to sign up for the ASCUS blog. They kind of keep you up to date with things that are changing. For example, when we started to trip over summer withdrawal codes earlier in the fall,
they put it on the ASCUS blog first. So if you want to know about what's going on with the system, sign up for the ASCUS blog, sign up for Red Flag so you can find out when they put out a patch, or if mysteriously integrity didn't run that week. Usually takes them about an hour to start figuring out what's going on. They put out a red flag and tell you about it. So bookmark all three. I'm at a super great time of the month right now, and that's the week before data capture. So if you ever try to stop my school of finance, you'll find there's a week where my team is super, super busy. There's a week where the payments team is really busy. So we're leading up to my week. It's getting everybody up as good as they can right before data capture. And when I say data capture, I mean the data that made it into the ADE systems right before I kicked off integrity, aiming for payment. So that's going to be next Friday. Bare minimum, try to be in by 5 because lately integrity has been running around 6. So if you haven't seen our lists of data capture dates, it's the big red button on the side of my site. There'll be a lot of screen caps because I've been told I don't use enough examples. Screen cap, big red button. As we're aiming for December 9th, we're not in as good of a place as I wanted to be. There are a few kids who are going to be leaving behind. There's a bunch of kids who are failing integrity rule 20002. And when I say a bunch of kids, I marked them low impact because it's likely you don't have any. And we're talking about 3,000 kids statewide, where for whatever reason they're flagging a rule about having 2 e-codes in the same school. So hopefully that's, oh no, don't nod, oh no. Okay, it's a medium impact issue. It's impacting more of you than I would like, but I think it will not be fixed in time for December 9th, so I'm very sorry. Those 3,000 kids are going to be left out. There are some preschool students, about 300, which is a really small number if you think of 1 million kids, who are tuition paid too, but for some reason are showing up as fundable. It's on our radar. I know that that's going to be an error in our ADM when I go to payment next week. So,
Are those tuition paid kids all preschool kids?
yeah, preschool tuition paid too.
Okay, so if they're tuition
And it's not even
paid
every single one.
at some other grade level, it's not an impact.
Yeah, so the question was, what's being impacted by this? It's only preschool students, and it's only tuition payer 2, and it's not even every single tuition payer 2 preschool student. It's only some of them that for some reason are coming out fundable instead of non-fundable. The ACE team was aware of it earlier this week before I got sick, so who knows, they might have fixed it by now, but I had planned to make it all the way to December 9th without that being fixed. That there would be 300 extra fundable kids that I wasn't happy with.
Where would we see that? By pulling up the STUD 72 or?
The question is, where will we see that? And a STUD 72 is actually more of a verification. Did the kid land? STUD 72 would likely show you the tuition payer of the kid. You want to keep going further in, past integrity, all the way to ADM 15. When you look up the kid on ADM 15, that's where the word fundable, which is a calculated field, shows up on ADM 15. So when I'm giving you these issues, I'm talking about things that will impact SUBA specifically, your ADM 15. So, and then I also expect AOI to be a little bit hinky. Jim and Lyle were recalculating it this week, and they're not 100% on the formula. It's good enough for horseshoes, as they say, but it's not exactly what we expected it to be. So I expect when we go to payment December, when I go for data capture day on the 9th, this will be corrected after that. And last one is DRP submissions. I've only got a handful of kids. This is going to be the first month that we're not 100% on the spreadsheet. So I would like to be in a better place. But that's things that are going to affect next Friday. If you see a bunch of kids failing in 20002, 20,002, you could probably put them lower down on your priority. Because I know there's about 3,000 in the state.
What's DRP submissions?
DRP stands for, so the question was, what's DRP? And it stands for Dropout Recovery Program, as outlined in 90106. So it's not every single dropout prevention program that you have. It's a very specific kind of dropout recovery program. It's almost exactly outlined in statute, and I think there's only 6 people doing it in the state right now. So that's why I call them low impact issues. Although I'll reevaluate 20002. I saw a question.
Okay, I have one of those 2002, it was for Canyon State, tuition down students.
Mm.
And I got the error that please put them in as a D4, and they said, no, you can't have the D codes. I emailed ADE, they said, no, change to an R1. I changed to an R1. it went away. 3 weeks later, it came back, said you can't have an R1. So I changed it back to an E code. 3 weeks later, yesterday I got another one saying it's got to be an R+. So, do I just keep switching it?
Sounds like a painful story. And the story goes something like, I put in a kid, or re-enrollment, I got a 20,002 error. It said change it to an R1. I did that. 3 weeks later, it flagged again and said, no, that's not right. It flagged, switched me back. And now it's flagged again and it says switch back to R1. That's why I would say, for the next week or two, because I know they're aiming to have this corrected by December 16th, which is after my deadline. For the next week or two, if you have a 20,002 error, I think it's okay to prioritize it a little bit lower. That said, it's your ADM. If you want every single kid, I won't tell you what to do. It's just, I know that they're planning to fix it and they're working on it for December 16th. That I'm not sure either. I wasn't paying attention to the dates that different fixes went in, and I wasn't paying attention to your exact kid, but I can understand why it's frustrating. We're agile and things change pretty rapidly. So that's why I think the ASCUS blog, they're really good at keeping up with what they know is issues and what they fixed so far. So hopefully that one is only bothersome for the next 2-3 weeks, and then it just levels out and stays normal for the rest of the year. So Lyle has been pretty adamantly following up with ASCUS data. On the subject of spread a little thin, he's not here. He's at GovMac talking to business managers, so I'm here. He would have told you good news, and he would have given you an exact number of how many million ADM are in the system right now. There was a dip a few days ago, or not, maybe a week and a half ago, when we fixed an inactive calendar issue, and everybody dipped, but
Yeah.
that's the right number of people to chuckle about that. So it was a pretty drastic dip back, what, last week or something? Anyway. Okay. But generally, we're okay with going to payment off of everyone on ASCUS now. There are about 20 LEAs that have no ADM, but every day when I go in, it's not the same 20 LEAs. So what that says to me is it's not one uniform issue. Sometimes, for example, I find out that somebody's decided to re-upload all their kids, so they wiped it out and put them back. So it's not one uniform issue that's affecting everybody. It's a little mosaic of issues. So I'm okay. I'm not okay, it's not ideal, but I'm okay with the number. About 20 LEAs that don't have ADM right now. Lyle has been, he sent out those 2 emails, one before the last payment, one before the previous payment, talking about the payment basis. Like he tried to kind of temper the payment changes by putting some of you back on estimated accounts. This one, we're going everyone to ASCUS. We're in a really good place. He also directly emailed people with freakishly low ADM. And that's based on just comparing this year ADM to 2015. So if you're comfortable, you said I'm really declining and I'm 50% of what I was 2 years ago. You've probably seen the email, first panicked, and then you've talked it through with your entire team and you guys are okay. But so Lyle was chasing that. Some of that stuff I copied over as hot topics as well. So if you didn't get it, if you don't know what your ADM is, I don't think this is the room to be saying if you don't know what your ADM is. But if you don't, we are trying to pay attention, but we're no longer calling everybody directly saying, did you know your ADM dropped today? Because as we do call people, we find out that it's something they planned or they heard about a patch or something, so it's not too bad. So I'm pretty comfortable going to everyone on ASCUS next week. Well, I'll get to the except for later. We're still in a School Finance Friday. At this point, I would have told you next month, meaning December. Workshop Wednesdays. I'm going to recycle a topic from September, so hopefully a bunch of you already know this, but there are a handful of people who are still really, really struggling. So we're going to cover a topic that most of you probably know. And you've seen my little diagrams with the colors, the little man and the green, blue, purple. That's the topic. So I'm hoping to get a much smaller crowd of people who really need attention. So if anybody wants attention but can't drive all the way in, email your account analyst and we can set up a web-based version of it for the people who can't make it in. And that one I wouldn't do a joint live and web version. I would do just web because this is it's an important topic, dear to my heart, and I mean it. I want to get that ADM in the machine. So we're going to do 2 sessions. The 7th, we switched to 2 to 4 because we didn't notice that I had a schedule clash. And the 14th is 1 to 3. Most of the material you can watch on the videos. We recorded it last time, so you can probably self-serve if you go to our website to catch up on the topic. So I'm expecting attendance to be low because everybody's awesome and all their kids are passing and they have all their ADM.
So for something that's random, did you say you were not going to be webcasting this?
Question about webcasting. I can webcast it, but I don't want to do it the way that I have for previous, where I do both at the same time. Because we've done this topic before, we're revisiting just to help people who are really struggling. I think we can't give you adequate attention if we're trying to multitask while streaming, while managing the room. So if we have people who do need that attention, but can't drive all the way in, we'll do a dedicated web session. So if you're interested, email your school finance catalyst.
It's just that it can be a challenge leaving your district to come there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier to go online and sit at your desk and do it, and then also do other things at the same time. And also the security at ADE is worse than the dentist now. So
I'm going to agree with Melissa. It is really challenging to get up and drive all the way downtown. I don't like doing it. I have to do it every day. And I live in Scottsdale. So if I lived anywhere further than Scottsdale, you should know, for me, exotic is like Fountain Hills. I don't really get out further than, I don't get out. So if you don't want to drive in, certainly email your school finance analyst and say I'd like to participate in a web session. And I don't mind if it's because you don't want to leave your desk that day or because you know you're going to be very busy serving lunch in an hour and a half. That's totally okay.
Well, it's a lot more time that you're dedicating to this one thing, right?
Yep.
It's not just that it's hard to drive in, but it takes a long time. Added on to the training itself, and then.
I agree. It is a time commitment, and I trust you to judge what you need.
Right.
If I lived in Fountain Hills, I would be remoting in every day. That's too much for me, and that's
right.
I think less than an hour from the airport.
I have a question about pulling the ADM report. After our 40th day, not on the 40th, but days later, I put in the date of our 40th day, and the report came up as projected 40-day ADM. It wasn't until I kept selecting a later date. It wasn't until I got to November 1st that the report changed to actual 40, and the two numbers were different. So in order to understand how this all works, ADM runs, that process runs every night, correct?
It's a question about the words projected and actual on ADM reports.
Yes.
And how when you went to pull an ADM report on the day of your 40th day, it was still marked projected. And it was still marked projected all the way until November.
Yes.
Was this an ADM 15?
20, ADM 20.
Okay, I'm going to take a tiny detour away from the School Finance Friday because I truly love this question. One cool thing that we can do in ACE that we couldn't do in ZACE is we can tell the difference by kid on what track they're on. So each kid, each day is either projected or actual. So that means for whatever reason, when you look at a summary level, if it still says projected, it's probably some projected, some actual. Do you have any tracks that didn't have a 40th day until November?
We just have one track.
Okay. I'm happy to be wrong because perversely I like a puzzle. Do you mind if I follow up with you after to figure out more detail?
So in trying to understand this, ADM runs every night, or when you talk about data capture, does that mean that there's another aggregation that happens before payments?
Question is for clarification, does ADM run every night? ACE runs immediately after integrity. So unless something has gone wrong, you know when you go to AD Connect,
right.
AZ's portal, the first thing you see is the systems page, so unless something is red, ACE will have run immediately after integrity. So when I say data capture, it's the exact same moment for both types of data. So the post-integrity data, we use the 5 o'clock deadline for integrity, and for the ADM data, we use the 5 o'clock deadline for integrity because they're hooked right up to each other. So theoretically, yeah, every day should be new ADM possibility. Right? So if your data's not changing, don't worry too much, but if you're doing daily changes, you should be able to log in the next day and see that kid. But I want to follow up with you after on the ADM 20 and protected. Okay. It's a weird question. I enjoy weird questions. I guess with School Finance Friday, I tell you about this cool new thing that they put out last week. It's called the ASCUS 10. You should know I'm really chuffed with myself about the name of it because I named it and I love the name so much. It's absences and attendance, so that's why the beautifully awkward name. If you use the stud 10 for the past, I want to say since May, maybe the past 5 months, there's been a parameter up near the top that people keep calling and saying this parameter doesn't work. It says from this date and the number of days. That parameter was literally just for attendance, because if you think about it, if you were running an enormous AOI and you tried to pull all the attendance records in May, that's a really cumbersome report. So they thought, will help if you could filter the number of days you want if you're an AOI. But then if I go to pull a stud 10 for DOR, I can't pull DOR for a specific date range, so that parameter was inactivated. It looked like these, but it was on the stud 10s, start date, number of days. They pulled it out of the stud 10 altogether so that people don't get confused about this seemingly inactive parameter. So it's out of the stud 10 altogether, and it's here on the ASCUS 10, my new best friend. I love it. For me, sometimes you get an error that says, like an integrity error that says, this date, absence can't fall outside of a membership. When you go to pull a stud 72, you don't see it, because the stud 72 is filtered to memberships. If you go pull up the QRGs, it explains what's in a stud 72. But honestly, you will have already pulled it by then, and you would have already looked for that student by then, and you're 20 minutes in and you're frustrated. So if you get an error that says absence falls outside of a membership, I go straight to ASCUS 10, my new best friend. Sometimes I call it absatio because I read the numbers as letters.
That's under student detail?
It's under student detail, and so that means the attendance and absent records are pulled out of the stud 10. All happen in one go. I love it. So the training that I wanted to do outside of the School Finance Friday is I wanted to catch you up on the thing that I feel about 13 months is a different problem every month. The one problem that has not gone away in 13 months is we are all spread out really, really thin. Like, the number one complaint I get is I can't reach Monica, I can't reach Jim, I can't reach you, this is my third email to you, where are you? And so the best I can do for that, we would try to tackle both sides of the problem. I assure you, I've talked about the other side of the problem, and until we can handle that, if you've worked in a public agency before, you can't really set budgets and affect staff very quickly. What we can do quickly is try to set better expectations. So expectations, I set up a webinar so you can reach me as quickly as possible. We're trying to drive traffic to our emails, because honestly, some of my staff are kind of insane and they check their emails on weekends and at nights, and when the baby wakes them up, so
They're not responding. Even if
that's why I said it's the number one issue.
that I'm sitting on, that I keep emailing, and
We don't even know if you've read it.
Same here.
Same here.
Same here.
I mean, you respond to
We have thousands of integrity errors and no response to what's happening, and it's incredibly frustrating. And then we're told, oh, just get in touch with the school finance analyst, and the school finance analyst is not responding. I mean, what are we supposed to do, knock on the door?
I'll tell you what, if you did knock on the door physically because you couldn't get a hold of my email, you would likely find me, and so that would technically work. That said, we've already discussed the drive, you don't have to do that. So we are trying to reach you better.
Fix if we don't hear from anyone. Like I got say numbers out there about merging, nothing.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a 915 open that I'm trying to find out what I'm supposed to do at this point. Nothing.
Okay, give me a hot second to run through the ideas, and then I'll talk about the horrible reason we have all these ideas. Everything we put out as an email or something, we do put as hot topics on the website. So if you haven't seen it, the hot topics that are there are sorted by time, and they're automatic. So if you've missed something or you haven't, and that I captured this morning. So there's one method of trying to hear from us.
The other one is you can go back in time through previous memos if you haven't seen. A lot of people have given me feedback that our website is really hard to navigate. I walked into this website, but I'm working with IT communications and the webmasters to try to get me onto that, the pretty new ones with the bubbles that are cell phone compliant. We're trying to get there. It'll take a minute, and once we get there, the hot topics will be like the ASCUS blog where it comes into your inbox. That I would appreciate it. I know I would appreciate it, but you should know that my biggest pitfall is optimism. Like, we can fix that, and then it breaks my heart how long it takes to fix it. So probably next ASCUS, I'll be telling you about my big plan to get the website updated. But it is there. We're getting there. The last one is School Finance Fridays. If you don't work on a Friday, if you took a sick day, we do record them all, and I do post the notes on the website in HTML because that's the flattest version that I know everyone will be able to reach. So I literally copy out of the slides. I know when I make a slide, sometimes I put just a bullet, so I change the bullet into a sentence, but even then the video is right below it. This is last week's, in case you missed it. Then the other one is there's such a thing as management by walking around. By walking around, if I hear people saying the same thing over and over, I turn it into a training session and eventually into a video. That's it. I don't do it at the speed I would love to, but we're getting there slowly. So when we have a Wednesday workshop, it's because I'm hearing things over and over and over, and I'm trying to be a little bit lean and see how much we can bunch together. Because we keep having these big plans of maybe going out and having site visits, and well, as you've heard, we're not really on top of our emails right now. So site visits are a little further away than we'd like. So we have our Wednesday workshops. If you haven't been before, it's a little bit informal. We usually stand around afterwards so that you can tear our hair out about that email we're ignoring. I'm so sorry. Then I go through and I record them. So I've created a little page on the side where you can go access the video. So the reconciliation one, I really do mean it. If you think you've got it under control, but you want to know what we're going to cover, it's already in the video on the training site. You may not have to come. I don't mind at all. That said, I'm behind on emails, and I know that half of my staff is as well. You may have noticed I did post to get a couple new analysts, so I hope that'll alleviate it, but that won't alleviate it this month, and it won't alleviate it in time for the payment you're worried about right now. If you are really uncomfortable with the speed that your analyst is getting back to you, feel free to CC me, and you can change the subject line to repeated attempts at this, and I will try to prioritize those over other issues as best I can. That said, I do try to bundle issues up into known problems so that we can chip away. There's an 80-20 principle that 20% of your issues cover 80% of the people, so it's my genuine hope that by paying attention to all the emails and trying to capture groups together, that hopefully we reach as many people as we can. But if for some reason somebody's not available and is not answering your emails at the speed that helps you, you can feel free to escalate it to me and maybe change the subject line to indicate to me your frustration. I may not be more help than them. I will certainly try, but that's where I am for 2016. The theme, we're all spread really thin. I do have news on the 915 that you can't work. It's time to work on the superintendent's annual financial report, so we can't process 915s in SACE for December. So if for some reason you wanted to request a 915, you certainly can. You can still request them, but actually processing data and running integrity, we can't in December. So this is literally the opposite of what will help you right now, because I can't help you with your 915. I have the worst optimism. I'm so sorry.
Well,
there are some,
but you guys aren't letting me know what I need to do, and my fear is you're going to give me a deadline of like, you need to reconcile your data in 2 days, which you guys need to do, and I'm not going to have time to do it. So I keep trying to find out what I'm supposed to do at this point in time to kind of head that off. But I don't know what to do. I don't even know where my 915 stands.
Do you mind if I follow up with you after?
Perfect.
Do you have a school name or?
Yeah.
Thank you. I did hear some questions earlier about merges and splits. Merges and splits are really not much better than they were last month. We've been keeping you updated on the webinars. But really the best way to handle it, and I'm so sorry to say it, is preventative. Try not to create duplicate IDs. But I know it's horrible. By doing the best research you can ahead of time, look for that transcript, try to do some, and then hit the go ahead and create a new ID button, because I know it takes me months to resolve these merge tickets. So the best that you can ahead of time, not create the situation for yourself, otherwise you get in my merge queue, and my merge queue is first in, first out, and so I can understand why it feels like it's taking months, because it's actual months. I was tempted to just finish, but okay, I'll take your question. Okay. 2017 payments, I touched on it before, but then there were some excepts that I didn't say because it was a school finance Friday. Everybody's going to be on ASETs, and we keep getting a question of what does declining districts mean? So just in case you didn't know, this is the very first year of current year funding for districts, and so for fiscal year 17, there's a provision that you don't need necessarily to be paid on that 2017 data if you're declining. And that can literally mean that here Scott had 180 of last year, and this year he has 99. I'll pay him on the 100 for last year. So where this makes the real time really very interesting is every month his data is going back and forth. He may not legitimately have 99 students. Maybe he has 100 students still, but sometimes one gets deleted or added back. That means each payment all year he could be declining or not declining. And it's at that recalc well after July 1st where his data stopped moving. That'll be the final judgment of declining or not declining. So hopefully your payments stay pretty even, but every month we judge declining or not declining, literally a flat comparison 16 to 17. So that's that. And then charters, we've all done this before, it's just your live data. So you were already ready to be stressed. It's just the district, this 1 year declining districts is an idea to help you get a little bit of a handle on your data, get a little bit of room to breathe as you learn a new thing.
Only this year.
And it's only fiscal year 17. So that's the next 7 months. Question?
We're from the reservation, and the detention center is, I just talked to their teacher, they're educating some students that dropped out from us, but I don't see in ASETs that they're being reported. I think they're doing what you're saying, they're just gonna, I don't know how they're reporting, but for audit reasons, I need to attach the request for records for the next school. But they need to, so for now, they're staying W4s, but would it do graduate with them? Or would it be, I mean, how do I report it? How do I get rid of the W4?
The question was about detention centers.
Yes.
So near the reservation, there is a detention center, and you know some of your kids that you W4, you've heard that they're being educated at the detention center, but you haven't gotten a records request and you don't see an additional membership after yours, so you're stuck with that W4. I'm going to say really bluntly, right now you're stuck with that W4. So while the law says you have to upload data every 20 days, it doesn't say everybody must upload every single kid every 20 days. So they may intend to upload later, and I think some of the detention centers don't necessarily upload all of their memberships. So short term, you are stuck with the W4. I'm so sorry, but it's an interesting question, and I'm sorry if I take it for later.
I just want to pipe in here. I'm working with Chris Brown in the department, and he's working very closely with the detention centers of Mr. Bartender anyway. And we have successfully gotten one completely all the way through.
I think that you should be seeing that information, you should be seeing information from detention centers really soon. Because I know they're working on getting everyone, I don't know what vendor each detention center uses, but we've been real successful, got it all done, and that was just yesterday. So just be aware that I know they're aware of getting this information from detention centers, so I think in your situation, you should start communicating with that detention center and say, where are you at in the process, so that you don't have to get stuck with a W-4, because they are educating them. Thanks. No, you definitely had more news on it than I did. Because I know Chris Brown is talking to them, I just don't know where he is, or the fact that they got a new one yesterday. Exciting news that keeps hitting me a lot, and that's fair, should hit me definitely. I don't know if you've heard, but there's a new withdrawal form this year, and we're not taking all the ASCUS. It's really subtle news that not a lot of people know about, so I just wanted to inform you about it. Thank you. It's very kind of you. It's actually the most irritating subject, and everybody is really bugged about it. Somewhere around June, we decided that some of the S codes could be calculated in theory, and S1 in theory. For example, for a kid to be in your cohort for your grad rate, either you set their cohort when you had them in 9th grade, or you have a current enrollment with them. Therefore, a summer transfer, if they legitimately transferred from my district to yours, would automatically be in your cohort, right? So theoretically, it can be calculated. So there is a new withdrawal form. I know it doesn't 100% align with what's on the API, so I do get a lot of emails from vendors saying, why doesn't the form match the API? I think it's okay if the API has more codes than the form. The form is the process we're going to be following anyway, so the form came first. There are some kids where, for right now, you don't need to submit an S1. I don't mind however you want to account for it. If you'd like to just delete it out of your system and that's the way you choose to keep that record, that's totally okay with me. I have no say over how you keep records. If you work out some deal with your vendor where you mark them in such a way that the vendor sends the delete, that's totally okay. That's the horrible news that I have right now. That said, a number of people brought up really interesting points about S1, and I'm talking to accountability about it. We may or may not have better news for fiscal year 18. This is where we are now. I think we have the best job, just bring the bad news and try to smile about it.
So what summer withdrawal codes are you accepting?
Right now, the summer, for 2017, the summer withdrawal codes we're taking is S7, which is my favorite code, 8, 10, and 21. So generally, the codes that would take a kid out of your grad rate cohort calculations.
I have a question for you. Okay, I still am not sure, uncomfortable, don't agree with the date range that we're allowed to use for S7s. Because you're asking us to lie about when the kids graduate over our summer. Our summer goes from the first day after the last day of school all the way until the day before the first day of the next school year. And we're being told that the date range we may use is July 1 to August 31st. Now that doesn't make any sense. We wouldn't use a day in August after we started the school year. And you're telling me that if I have a kid who finishes my summer school program mid-June, that I can't say they graduated as an S7 in mid-June. And that doesn't make any sense. So I don't understand why the business rule had to be rewritten and why we're giving dates that are bogus instead of dates that are actually accurate.
So Melissa has a valid concern about potentially having to save a kid who graduated over the summer and then falsely report them on the wrong date. Because an S7 is coded to July 1 to just before September 1st, right?
Well, that's your business rule, but that's not
so the
how
question
I
has come to me in accountability a couple of times now in the past month or so, and what we keep responding is it's a legitimate concern, but we see 3 valid codes for a kid who's graduated. If they graduated on the session day, they would give them a W7. If they graduated between the beginning of the fiscal year and September 1st, you can give them an S7. S7, did I say S7 last time? W7, S7, and if there's this miracle kid who needed one more credit, walked with all his friends, and then took, I don't know, Japanese 2 at MCC, and finished before June 30th, that kid you could use a year-end code of G for. So this, you're still shaking your head.
Yes, I am.
And there are a
Doing
bunch
this
of
for a few
tickets
years,
about
we've
this.
never done that. We've never been directed to.
She said she's done it for a few years and I've never been directed to do that. There is a few tickets about it, and we keep getting the question to the point where I've been talking to the chief accountability officer about we maybe need more documentation about when and where to use which codes, because this one sounds like a legitimate
and
gap.
he doesn't finish Japanese. And now it's past June 30th.
If it's past June 30th, then it would be an S7 in the following fiscal year.
You're basically telling us to falsify and say he's graduated when he didn't graduate yet. What if he doesn't finish?
Don't falsify. I didn't tell anyone to falsify.
You just told us to put a G.
If that's what happened.
But it didn't. The school year ended, the kid did not graduate at the end of the school year.
I hear a legitimate use for more documentation. Sherry?
I know that there is a meeting I just have a suggestion not to put myself on the hot seat, because I am only, we're, again, from IT, we're just accepting the data based on the business rules, but with that said, we do partnership and we work very closely together, so there is a lot of confusion, and what I think we should do, this is just my suggestion, I'd like to, I'm gonna have Stefan, or maybe right after, I'd like to get the specific questions and the concerns. And there's a meeting I know on our calendars on Monday afternoon. And so I'd like to take those specific questions and concerns back to, it's with the accountability team. So if you don't mind, I don't think we're gonna solve it here, but what we can do is bring those questions back and see what we can do on a resolution.
Sure,
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
You serving chocolate at the meeting?
Just kidding. Chocolate. No problem. See now.
Summer graduate, if we're doing ST Connect and telling you what the student took, and they have 23 credits, and the principal says they're gonna graduate in the summer, and we don't report summer in ST. So how would I do that, or is that a vendor question? How do I tell you that?
Do you mind if I defer more specific questions about student? Do you mind if I defer questions about how to upload courses to Course Expert? It was a question about if you're not sure about the graduation date of the student, like in which fiscal year will fall, how do you upload the courses for that student if they're planning to be a summer grad? I'm going to defer everything about courses. At least for the short term. We had a really cool, I'm sorry, this is my. Yes. I wonder, can I hit a,
if we can just say this.
so it's ASA.gov/accountability. I'm not going to spell accountability because I don't trust my ability to spell without Siri helping me. And then on the little bar across the top, it's under forms. It's called the official notice of pupil withdrawal. With a nice long official name.
Wait, just one other point about summer grads. Oh, sorry. Thank you. So the one other point I have is if you're saying that my senior doesn't graduate at the end of the school year, I use the year-end status, I'm still enrolled because of coursework. And then they enroll in my summer school that they pay for themselves, I don't report it to you, that I now have to report it to you or go back and change their year-end status from SC to G because we posted to course history that they have passed the course. Is that what you're saying? No, because practically, let me finish please, because there's a theory, hey, this is what makes sense, and then there's practically what we do at districts to support your theory, to say, well, we're going to change the year-end status we gave that senior. Because the last day of our school year, you didn't have enough coursework so we didn't graduate you. But they finish it before July 1, you're saying we go back now and change that SC to a G. That's how we would have to, that's how it would practically work. Because on the last day of school, or 2 days after, they hadn't finished it. And 3-4 weeks later, they have. But I'm still not in July 1. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do see.
So then how would we use this SC codes?
So there's a persistence manual that explains the definition of an SC code. When you're talking about year-end status, year-end is July 1, or I guess June 30th. If the year-end status is applicable all the way until June 30th, if the kid's status legitimately changed between May 2nd and June 2nd or June 30th, it's okay to change your year-end status. But Sherry's right. We can sit down and talk about what kind of documentation you need or what kind of information will be more helpful or clearer to help you make those decisions. Okay. I think she said she's keeping Stefan for that purpose. The past couple months we've had issues with a bunch of different, sorry, it's the DAPO, I'm not having excellent word choice day. They have a really cool set of issues about a bunch of different things. Kids that you've tried to send to private placement, kids you've tried to upload it to JTEDs, kids you've tried to send to a school other than your own for one course. There is no consistent problem that anyone's having. There are some trends. So for example, let's say you had a private, yes, the first one's private placement. If you had a kid that you were trying to send for a private placement, and for whatever reason, you could see on a transaction report that you sent the transaction, but you can't find the kid on any reports to prove it. A general trend for those is I'm finding that some people aren't sending DOR for themselves. Sometimes they use their school entity ID, or they use the private placement as the entity ID for the DOR. If someone other than you is the DOR, even if it's accidentally, you can't pull the report. So theoretically, if I was trying to do a private placement, sending one of my kids to Scott's private school, he calls it Scott Private School, I would put Student School Association at Scott Private School site, and then I would send the DOR for myself still, so I still have permissions to see them. So I want to say 80% of the people we researched, they were having this issue where they can't see the kids that they sent for private placement. It was because for whatever reason they sent the wrong DOR, so they didn't have the permissions to see the specific Student School Association. So that's a hint to help you clear it up if you can't find some of your private placement kids that you knew you sent. For JTEDs, if you know you sent JTED kids and you cannot see them on reports, for a lot of people that was related to your permissions. Your school finance account analyst or AZET's team person on the phone with you will be better at explaining the details of that one. But for most people, it turned out to be that. And then for trying to send an 8th grader to a 9th grade environment, or for a course, for the student section association to land, you need a student school association. So hopefully that'll help you navigate the most of those. I know it's not pretty. You're shaking your head. It's not pretty.
We've been talking about that for months, and that's an issue we've been talking about for months with the school association. We've never had to do that in the past, and there's really no logical reason to do that.
To put in a membership?
Correct.
The reason would be to get the student section association to land.
The student sections had been landing prior to AZETs. They were going in correctly with STC. So it wasn't an issue.
Course section associations are in AZETs now. So by design, some of the transactions have to change. So some of the business logic supporting it does change.
Right, but what you're telling us that we need to do now is if we've got a student that's taking a class at another high school, that we have to enroll that student at that high school.
If you want the section to land, then you have to have the student school association there.
Okay, but if we don't care about the section to land, then we don't need to.
I guess that's implicit in the instruction, yes, technically. That is an option, I guess.
it's just a lot of additional work for the districts to have to do that.
I understand that.
And there's not a funding implication. So if we could look at maybe another solution to make it easier for the districts, that would be.
Remember how there was something I wanted to ask you about, but then I got sick for 2 days?
Yeah. That's an ASCUS.
Yeah, so this is not in school finance. You're right, it's clearly more systems related. It's only if, for whatever reason, that kid failing is impacting ADM. The only answer I can give you is they need a student school association so that rule stops failing. For the one section to upload why and when, I'm sorry I'm not the right expert for that answer.
Okay. Well, I guess the frustrating part of all of this is we've been talking to IT about this for months. It's gone from IT to school finance to STC, and now we're back in the same position. We need an answer on how we need to do this.
Does it affect funding?
No,
of course, it's not.
So it doesn't.
Associations only affect funding if they make the kid fail.
So,
They're not.
so what did change in this fiscal year is, and Lori's going to talk a little bit about STC, but just in general, STC has changed so that it's coming through ASENS. ASENS, we actually leverage what's called Ed5. So it's a technology standard that we use. It's a national standard. It's not just unique to the state. How we arrange data when we submit, we try to stay to that standard as best we can. And so that standard is looking for an association to a school, because it thinks that if you don't have the association, then how could you even have a course? So it makes it look like potentially there's a data quality issue. So what you probably have continued to hear is you do have to submit it, but what I'm hearing is it's definitely a big change for you, and a change that is very cumbersome or requiring a lot of effort. So the only thing that I can do at this point is just take it back to our architects and our technical team. I'll be honest, because what it would require us to do if we do change, it would require us to, I believe, deviate from the standard. And we try to minimize that as much as possible. But in some cases where we believe there's a really strong business case and there's no other way to solve it, we do consider it. So I think that's the best we can do, and I apologize if you feel like you have gotten the runaround. We have noticed that we do see some of the email chains or someone even come back to me. And it was one of the change areas this year. So thank you for the feedback. And right now, in order to get your student-teacher course connection, you do have to for this year. And again, we'll relook at it. That's all I can say at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I think one of the other issues that we're seeing as a group is with tuition out schools. One of the problems is that it's very difficult to add a group that's missing from the list. So they may have an entity ID, for instance, we're talking about Mingus Mountain. They have an entity ID, they're just not part of the list of drop-down DORs that you can select from. We requested this back in September to add them to the list. What we were told is we had to have Mingus Mountain contact our account analyst and have them add it to the list. And it's just this big circle and nothing's getting done. And so our tuition out students aren't being reported properly. It should not be a big deal to add Mingus Mountain to the drop-down list of entities that's available for tuition out school. So part of the facial expressions you're seeing from me right now is I don't see the user interface that you see. I only see agents. So as far as I know, the process for getting someone added to that drop-down so you can send a kid somewhere is twofold.
One, you would email your account analyst and say, I'm gonna send a kid to this place, I need approval for that. The other piece is you need the entity ID for that place so that you can put in the membership. The piece that's broken is getting them added to the dropdown or both. Some things that I know my process has changed for the past couple months is I'm getting more emails from vendors asking for lists of private placement places so that they can have those entity IDs. So that's something I'll take as a note to touch base with Sherry. Maybe there's something better we can do to streamline that process. But so in the short term, I'll say keep emailing the account analyst to get them on the drop down, but I'll touch base with Sherry if there's a better way we should be doing this. Because you're right, I've had a few of those, and it's because it's a two-part problem. I have to get back to my pen before I get any more QAs. It says Sherry Mingus drop down. That's the note I left myself. Hopefully I'm near the end. Okay, excellent. The last common issue that I have is, I already confessed to it. It's the not being able to reach me by email. All I can say is I do have 2 positions open that I'm going to be trying to fill the next month or so, and I'm willing to take escalations. Just put in the subject ID. Why aren't you answering my email? Or maybe escalation, so that I see it when I'm checking my email at ungodly hours. But I think I've got a minute or 2, 3 maybe. You mind if I go anti-clockwise?
Just a very quick personal question. So does school finance overlook JTED and JTED integrity? So should I be talking to my school finance analyst if I'm handling JTED specific integrity?
That's an interesting question. Should I be talking to my school finance account analyst if I'm talking about JTED specific errors?
Integrity errors.
What kind of JTED specific integrity errors?
I mean, all of my data students have pretty much errors.
Is it a membership you submitted?
I'm sending my data from my science to ASCUS because now I have to report JTED to my ASCUS before. And I'm just trying, I have all the tickets with AD support and whatnot, but I'm trying to understand how can I, give additional shape to.
Okay, I think she summed up the question better the second time. Who can I hold by the collar and hold to my integrity errors? We break it out more by integrity rule type because we've broken up the rules. If you look at the first digit, it kind of speaks to subject. A 40,000 rule is Fed one, a 10,000 rule is mine. No matter how you get them into our support ticket structure, the 10s, the 20s, the 5s, and the 8s get to me. So if your JTED specific rules are flagging 1s and 2s, 10,000s and 20,000s, you should just reach out to your school finance account analyst first. If we can't help you and we know that it's some kind of a bug, we'll escalate it to developers. So hopefully it's just a.
But should it still go to AD support? Like, if no matter what the beginning of the number is, and what is actually, I mean, it has been months. Like, let's be real. Like, it has been over the years. So, is it something that I have to do? Is JTED under school finance?
Memberships are under school finance. So that's why I know I'm hearing your question and I'm purposely framing it in a different way than you asked. So JTED memberships, school finance. Other things, if you're not sure if it's school finance, you can put in a ticket, and I trust that we're getting much better on our support processes, and tickets are being triaged to the right person, even if it takes a few days. I heard you slip it in, and I won't repeat it. There's a question over here.
Yeah, I was just wondering when we might see the new updated school finance manual.
Thank you for keeping me honest. That was my last thing.
And what's the progress on EX1?
EX1, I was supposed to send to a focus group to vet the easier version. Some things that we're keeping in mind is reducing administrative burden on LEAs and putting some of the calculations into ACE. So I was supposed to send out a draft to them this week, but then I've been sick for 3 days, I'm so sorry.
A draft of the EX one.
Yes, and then school finance manual, we're trying to be more careful about our posting process. I'm sorry, vocabulary and me are not doing well with. Essentially, we run it through audit and school finance, and then we run it by an LEA team, then we take it to legal in the AG's office. So sadly, the posting has gotten slower, but I have 3 or 4 sections that I was going to sit down and ask for volunteers to read through with me. So they're ready for it. It's slow going. I'm sorry. It's still on my radar, but it's beating me down. I'm getting less optimistic about it. I'm kind of near the end of my hour. Anything on fire? In that case, I'll see you in the lobby later to sign up for 15-minute windows with your attendance list. Go for it. Thank you.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick 10-minute break for those that need to go sign up with your school finance analyst. Then we're going to come back and we're going to do the drawings, and then Lori will talk about her part information, and then we'll break lunch. Come back in about 10 minutes.
I know, I was trying to sit down and
For those of you that signed up for the school finance sessions, if you didn't find out where you're going to meet your school finance analyst, it is right as you exit this building to lunch, the last room on the left. That's where you will have to see them set up. Okay, the first one. This is for the PowerPoint backpack. The number is 224988. All right, Sophia.
Come on, enjoy the next one.
Yeah.
Enjoy the next
one. This is for an EduPoint coffee mug and a Starbucks gift card. This is 224994.
Take that.
No big deal.
Well, let's go to the next one.
Okay, this is for Power School. Titleist golf balls. 225046.
Next one.
This is for from Tyler Technologies, a nice cup, some peppermints, and a $50 Amazon gift card. It's not my number. 225036. Okay, this is for an EduPoint coffee mug and a Starbucks gift card. This is 225084. And go in the back.
I knew there was a reason to come today. Miriam, what's your number? 224966.
Okay, this is for a tumbling tower game from Power School. This number is 224968. Two 224-968. Someone left early without their game. Okay, Brian, try another one. 224970. Oh, here's Thomas. Take it, please. This is for a Power School drink tumbler, straw drink tumbler. This is 224944. 224944. No one. 225056. She's got it. Okay, this is for our last EduPoint coffee mug and Starbucks gift card. This is 225048. Yeah, that back corner. I don't know what's going on right there. our last prize is from Tyler Industries again, a drink cup, a mug, and a $50 Amazon gift card. It is 225011. Really? That person left early? 225011.
Susan, check your ticket.
Wow, congratulations. All right, thanks to our wonderful vendors for donating. And now we have Lori talking about STC. Hello. How are you all? Happy chilly December. Holy cow. My dogs don't want to go outside. As evidence to say, I left you a present. I don't know if anyone else's are, but. So it seems like I still have STC tattooed on my forehead. Do you see it? Really, truly, I'm really not the STC. You know, really, truly, STC really belongs to the program areas at ADE. And it's been, you know, floating around. We know that we need a true owner. It's not Lori Ventura. It's not ADEIT. It really belongs to the people who, you know, who can make a course decision. You call up and you say, hey, which course should I pick? It really shouldn't be us in IT. It should be a program area. So we are close to getting to that, to where it will go away from us. We're simply just the collectors, right? And the good thing is, you don't have to use that one other application. What was that? Yeah, you don't have to extract and upload and, you know, you don't have to do any of that anymore. So the point, I know, yay, evidence! So the point of this is, it's really not, please don't think of it as you know, it's just a subset. It's just part of the ASCUS data that you're now submitting. And if I could say anything and have the message today, that's really what that is. It all just flows through your ASCUS now. It just happens to be components of, right? So I just wanted to, just quickly, I don't have a ton to say today, if you can believe that. Submitting for this year, what's changed in the course catalog, AZ- and STC are friends, and then accountability. How does it coexist with STC? And when I talk about accountability, you know, I'm talking about that A through F letter grade. And how is this data going to be used, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to touch briefly on that because accountability, that is a program area that affects you. That's not ADEIT. So when Susie called me or sent me an email and said, hey, Lori, here's some of the things that we're getting questions on, I said, okay. So anyway, so prioritization. You know, we have been so busy in IT. You know, FY16 last year, excuse me, where are we right now? 17. So FY16, this has been a culmination of as long as I've been at ADE. You know, we're going to reduce the number of submissions that you have to make separately. We're going to build, you know, this massive database that pulls from. You don't have to have all these little extra submissions that come over here and so on and so forth. So we have been heads down and prioritizing. And, you know, so with AZEDS, everything changed. Every single thing changed. We now have a very connected, architected, large system that is really, actually, if you're a geek, it's beautiful, and how it works and whatnot. But for FY16, you know, we built it, we tested it, we gathered requirements, you know, all of those things. That was our main focus last year, and delivering it. And then this year, everything that was used to be pointed to SACE, and it now has to point to AZEDS, which is including AZ-, right? AZ- is really the culmination of a few things, right? It's your student, teacher, and course data. I'm trying not to use STC, but it's your student, teacher, and course data. It's your assessment data. It's your enrollment data, and all of that used to come from different places. Now it all comes from one big, your submissions, right? So we had to make sure that all of that was working. So as you start submitting, all of these systems are affected in different ways. So it's the same STC data, you know, but it's different, right? As far as how you get it in. You don't have to do the manual upload. So there are some things that, you know, poor Sherry, I've been looking at her and all of her notes and everything that she's been doing. There's so many things that you need done, that you want done and whatnot, but, you know, please know that our focus and our prioritization on all these other systems, we had to at least to get to this big one done first, right? So you can actually get your data in, you can reconcile, you can get paid, so on and so forth. So that's where our focus has lied. Now, as I listen and watch Sherry take notes, all of these other things to just keep enhancing and building the AZ system is going to take place now, right? So we just have to be patient with each other. We have to make sure that you're telling us what are your pain points, so on and so forth. So just wanted to start with that on where our focus really has been lying. And we know that there's ancillary things that need to our attention as well. So because STC really is one of the main things that feeds DASH, you're all familiar with DASH, right? Okay. So you have the assessment dashboards, which are the AZ Merit, the past aims, the Explore, ACT, SAT, those types, those college and career readiness. Then you have enrollment, right? Those are your attendance. How are we doing? Then you have your teacher dashboards, and then we have a new one out there right now. Have you looked at it? Early childhood? That's a new one. I haven't learned it very much, to be very honest, so I can't speak on it because it's fairly new. But we have that. So I just kind of wanted to give you just a pictorial thing. This is very small, teeny weeny, itty bitty part of the whole. Sorry. Thank you. So data flows out of your student information system and it flows into an AZEDS database. And that's where all of your integrity rules and all of that come apply, right? And then from that, as far as STC goes, to get data into DASH, you have these reports to take a peek at to see what's going on. What did you submit? And this ultimately, from here, it then goes into our big, huge operational data store. So that is, think of it like a garage for all of the data that's coming in, and it all knows where, when it comes in, it all knows where to go. Kind of like a garage, you know, oh, this is my parking spot, this is my parking spot, this is whatever, right? And then from this, it goes into, now that we have this big daddy here of data, instead of all the little ones all over the place, that data with a set of business rules flows into what we call the SLEDS database. And this is the data mart. And these the integrity rules that come down here are applied over this way. Excuse me, wait a minute, help me. It goes from ODS. Where's the integrity? Here?
It's
Or the business rules for, this is the UI business rules, sorry.
Integrity sits between AZEDs and ODFs.
Right. And then data that goes into the SLED's data mart, which feeds AZ-, that's where the business rules for AZ- are applied. Okay? And then that's how you get the UI. You get, the dashboards. So I just wanted to give you just a little bit, a brief of what you're looking at. It only takes some of it. It doesn't take every single thing. It only takes the data that is required for Dash. And you know that for the teacher, that's some of those STC data elements, right? Any questions about that? I just wanted to give you a large kind of kindergarten picture of it. Okay, so how does it work for this year? So it should be, like I said, it's really not its own data collection. It's just a component of of AZEDs. That's the data elements that are pushed, right? So you set up your classes. You're going to be doing that here for too long, aren't you? January, February. Those of you at the high school and whatnot, you're planning future, right? So you set up your student information system for your next year, right? You get your course codes in, you schedule your teachers, so on and so forth. And then when AZEDs opens up for 18, you're going to send all of yours mass upload, right? And then from there, you've got changes. Billy's in first hour with Mrs. Smith, Algebra 1. Well, he's not cutting it there, so he needs to go to, pre-algebra or whatnot. That change gets recorded, so on and so forth. And so that's how all of that happens. So I wanted you to know, I still get questions from people. Hey, SRM's not working. I know it's not. The what? Training is still open? Okay. Thank you. I didn't know that, actually. So it's no longer active. It's, people can't get in. And I get emails. Hey, I can't get into SRM. Okay. So, and I still get also, and this is okay, this is a valid question. Hey, what about the concept of beginning of year and 40th day and 100th? And when am I supposed to do that? Well, there is no concept of that anymore because it just flows in, right? The reason why we had the 40, 100, and end of year last year is because that's when we would stop a collection and then we would upload it into Dash. That didn't give you I didn't give you a good picture of what was going on. You had to wait all the way to 40th day. Or if you wanted to see new dashboards, then you would have to go through the painful, prickly of SRM, right? And get it all done, and then it would load again. So now you don't have to do that. So the concept of 40, 100, end of year is gone. It's just, as you push your data, the data gets updated, right? State course courses codes are still required. Teacher input application, it actually was formerly HQT. That is still a valid application to gather your 16-digit stakeholder IDs. And AZEDS requires no dashes, right? Okay. Assigned to the appropriate school roster, so Sally is at school A and so on and so forth, and you verify her. And then it also, what this does is this helps to populate the teacher dashboard. So we know who belongs to where, and you can submit. Does that make sense? Yes, sir.
On that HQT, sorry, last year when we were on the SRM, we would get errors back right away saying the teacher didn't have a valid HQT number, or stakeholder ID. We're not seeing those errors at all, and most of our new teachers, we don't have the HQT number in on them yet. And we're looking, we're looking at that integrity errors, the STC integrity errors, but we're not seeing any that are saying that the teacher doesn't have an HQT number.
Okay. So that would be, I would have to pull up the use case document, which shows you for AZEDS, which shows what is required, what's conditional, so on and so forth. So with the standard that Ms. Sherry was talking about, I'd have to look into that more because I don't support. Can you help me? Well, they're not getting integrity errors when a teacher doesn't have a stakeholder ID.
Well, if it's not an HQT,
If it's not in HQT. So formerly, let me give you a background. So formerly, before, they could not, SRM would not take, their STC collection would not take a stakeholder ID that wasn't valid and wasn't active inside AZ, or HQT.
Okay, so it is different now. A lot of things that are different. So the way that AZEDS works is we do the API itself allows either no ID or it allows really any data to come through. We do have integrity rules that do check. In fact, we are having some issues where the way that the ID should come through is with, no dashes, no spaces. It should just be the teacher stakeholder ID. If it's not, it will fail integrity. And if you don't have an ID, what that means though is then we don't have a connection. So if you did want a specific teacher, if you wanted to see their dashboard, but we don't have that ID, we can't truly make that connection when the teacher goes to log in. We are going to, one of the enhancements that we do have is to give you a warning if that is not a valid teacher ID. What we were trying to prevent, so here sometimes we were trying to help, but I don't know that we always help. If you did by chance know what the valid teacher stakeholder ID was, but yet you haven't rolled them over yet in HQT, we were trying to decouple those processes because in the past they were tightly coupled. So we were trying to decouple that. So that was the original intent, to not have to slow you down, but then it's caused some other, challenges on the back side. But the way that we're handling that is through some enhanced integrity rules. So that at least you're warned if a valid ID is not coming through.
So that is still a requirement though, of having that HTTP number in on
For Dash.
If you want to see,
but not in the actual STC itself. I mean, as far as the errors that we can get back, AZEDS, yes.
Correct. If you want, so if you think of it, that teacher stakeholder ID is what's used to connect any agency data to that teacher. So anytime we go to use STC data, if we don't have an ID, we really can't make that connection. So if you think of those, I look at those IDs as really those connection points. And if you don't have it, you can submit it, but when we're going to actually use that in applications like Easy Dash, we're starting to use it more like in our rostering tool. Some LEAs use our roster tool, but without that ID, we really can't make that connection. So it does help you if you can enter it from the start.
Yeah.
Do you have any plan to ever merge stakeholder ID and the staff ID? Because right now we just have so many IDs, right? I know it's too late now because obviously, every staff person has a stakeholder ID, and also the internal, the ASCUS ID, FI ID, I think so. But is it ever going, like, very far future where, they have one number, not five, it would be great.
I'm going to take that question and
You hear what follow up, right?
Yeah. But I have to go back and see how that's used in all the downstream applications. So, and if there's any implications of consolidating some IDs, because sometimes we use IDs for different things, but we should be clear about what we're using them for.
So one of the things I'm having a discussion with my SIS and PD is for STC, I'm getting integrity errors because I have like mini sessions and they're not going through. So what is the discussion in that in the future with you guys? It's like I have sessions that are not going through to get up to STC. They're being failing. So.
What are you talking about? Get up through STC. Are you getting those 600,000 errors?
Yeah, something like 600,009 or something, because the mini session is not being accepted at STC. Like my 6-week sessions, I have a 1 and 2.
It would depend on what that integrity error is.
It's very general.
So, yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna take that question too, so that's
Very, very general.
Okay. Is that the one that you have in right now, Lily?
Yeah, one of them.
Okay. Okay.
And
So,
then,
yeah, so
then
what-
they keep on telling me it depends on AD, what AD accepts in sessions. And
Okay.
it's going
We'll look at
back
it.
and forth.
We'll look at it. Ralph?
We're a small school. Our teachers kind of do double duty besides teachers. They are student advisors. And for our teachers who are not teaching core courses, they're not HQT, so they're not able to go in and look at past records of students and know things that are going on with them. Is there a way for them to be able to do that?
I don't know that it's really an IT question. I mean, that has to do with FERPA and whatnot, correct? I mean, you can't go in and look at, yes, you have them last year, but they don't belong to you this year. Is that what you're saying?
They're still students this year. They're the students that are in their class.
In my class.
Right, say our teacher.
Okay.
Didn't have to be HQT, there's not a real place to be a HQT. But she has 30 students that she's the faculty advisor for.
Oh, and so you're saying
there are
that she,
students that are actively in her class, so she can't look up information on
in Dash.
them. In Dash.
That would be true, and I'm gonna take that question or that suggestion. Again, we still have to be in compliance, but so right now, what I don't know if it's just a statute.
Yeah.
Or if it's also, I know what the technical limitation would be right now. But there could be other ways for us to look at that. So we'll take that as an enhancement idea.
Right,
And
like I
again,
said,
we have
as
to
long
have.
as there's still, students in their class. it's gotta be-
But you're saying because they're not in the HQT or the TIA application, you can't put them in there, and mark that highly qualified. That's what you're saying.
Isn't that a role issue?
Yes.
It's my understanding that teachers are no longer required to be medical. So.
Well, that's a whole nother thing as well, right? That's part of the Every Student Succeeds Act. Yeah.
So, an HQT number, shouldn't that term change? Should just be a teacher ID?
Correct, and I think one of our first steps in getting that is we've changed the application name from HQT to Teacher Input Application. So we're getting there. The department has to catch up and create their plan and so on and so forth to be able to catch up what has happened at the national level. They're working on it. They're working on it big time.
So when we get ready to do the AZ merit testing, before we had to make sure we had our 100 submitted, and then it pulled from that into the testing bucket for lack of, I don't know what it was called.
Yeah.
So how is that process? Same thing?
Not for sure, actually, Sherry,
We're asking, remember how last year for your AZ merit, it came from SACE for your grade level testing, right? And then it came from STC for your courses, right? And then you also got to pick the EOCs. That whole thing is coming, as far how it's getting done right now, Sherry and I were just discussing it. We're not for sure exactly how that got pulled, but we will find out because I want to know as well. I can't imagine, and I do know that this year with the TIDE application, you had a mass upload that was not there last year capability. So allow us to go to assessment and find that out so we can speak, with validity. Yeah, it's coming up. Correct. Absolutely. Point taken. Yes, ma'am.
On the teachers, when we couldn't get the stakeholder ID, I used the date of birth and ethnicity, and it's been sending it, and it's showing up on the staff report.
But you're not seeing them in Dash? Yeah, you shouldn't, based on that's what John was saying. Yeah. If you want them to show up on Dash, that's the only way that we can connect and make sure that we're giving the teachers the correct information.
What do they have access to in AZ Dash if you do not have stakeholders?
Nothing. They would have, the teachers would have nothing.
So AZ Dash only works if there is stakeholders.
At the teacher level. Mm-hmm. At the teacher level, yeah. Anything else? So as far as, yes, oh gosh, excuse me. I'm so sorry.
We have 3 new LEAs this year, and on AZ Dash, I can get there, but there's nothing, like the school name doesn't show up. I don't have any integrity errors.
Right. So, Shirley, you want to talk about what you just sent the email about last night?
Lori, I feel like I'm in a hot seat. If there is going to be a data refresh, you have, Lori did a great job on that picture. So we showed how data comes into AZEDS, and then it flows through to ODS and then into SLEDS. We did a one-time load on 11.2, and between 11.2 and actually now the next data refresh that we'll do, and when I say data refresh, I should probably be more specific. So every night, AZEDS is sending data to ODS. However, even though the STC data gets into ODS, it's not making its way into SLEDS. So we did a one-time load on 11.2 into SLEDS of the STC information, and we are doing another data refresh on Tuesday night to move the data from the current set of STC data in ODS into SLEDS. We have development that's currently underway. All the development is complete, and we are in December. I feel confident saying that in December, before we leave for the holidays, we will have the nightly refresh going into SLEDS. So SLEDS was, honestly, this was actually a fairly, so you're talking about like the technical geeks. We did have, SLEDS was our first data mart. So even just standing up that, what Lori referred to, I had to laugh, the Big Daddy ODS, there's just a ton of data in that data store. It's really amazing what the ODS team has done. And now we're starting to actually take that large set of data. SLEDS was the very first data mart within the agency. And so we're just catching up a little bit from a development standpoint. Because obviously we don't want to move everything every night. We only want to move what's changing on a daily basis just to improve processing times and efficiencies. So we're going to do a one-time or another data refresh on Tuesday night, which is the 6th. So by Wednesday morning on the 7th, if you have been submitting updated STC data, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm seeing it in AZEDS, but I don't see it yet in AZ-. Take a look on Wednesday morning, and if you don't have any integrity errors, you should see that flow through, assuming you have a valid teacher stakeholder ID with no dashes or no spaces in there. And then you kind of stay tuned. I will use the AZEDS blog when we start the nightly incrementals from ODS
So,
to SLEDS.
I apologize. So some of the consequences of this not happening, I see in my ticket queue in the support center. We have probably 7 to 12-ish tickets right now that have been reported. Hey, not all my schools are showing up. Hey, I submitted all my teachers, but only one is showing up. Why? Or, hey, some of my kids, so do you see where I'm going with it? So that's why. So this will be, once that data refresh happens on Tuesday of next week and you wake up Wednesday morning, you yawn and you're like, it's easy dash day. But you'll be able to see it, right? And so it'll fix those problems. And for all those tickets that were open, my staff will get back to you, and I'm very interested in your feedback on yes, it worked or it did not, because if it didn't or there's something going on, I'm going to go talk to, Sherry and her team. Okay? There are particular validation rules. Look at me, I did that. I'm not a Mac person, so I was like,
I don't know how to toggle between the two things. How do I turn this on? But I obviously don't know how to do this either.
oh, it's right there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I just wanted to take you really quickly, drive you to, if you're curious about what those 600,000 errors are, it's a 600,000 series. Those are those data collection of STC that apply to those, and I wanted to take you to that. So I'm on the Arizona Department of Education homepage. Go to ALIS, and I'm going to go to ASIDS, and I'm going to go to references. That's not the right one. Sorry. Okay, so the drop-down menu is, I went to, as you can see up here, I did ALIS, AZEDS, reference, and then under reference, go to integrity rules. And if you take a peek, here's the rules. Here are the integrity rules that are applying to those data elements that are STC in nature. And if you'll notice, I don't know if you can see this, and I'm on a Mac, so I would not even know first thing about how enlarging this. What is it? Thank you. Oh, I see it. Okay, it's not working. So if you'll notice, we've got them coded here. We've got, this is an STC rule, this is a teacher rule, a student rule, and a year-end STC rule. And so we were talking about that 600,009, right? This one is, if a course is not a high school course with low grade of 9 or above, report the discrepancy as a warning. So we're reporting it to you as a warning if there's a mismatch or something. So I wanted you to know that these are here. I don't know if you know they're here, but you can get into those and look at those. Were you aware that those were there? Okay. So are you comfortable with where we were to get them? Okay.
So if we have integrity that has to do with STC, are we going to see those in the integrity report? Integrity, what is it, 15? Or
yes, ma'am.
So we'll see.
Oh, the reports are reorganized?
Yeah, so.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so we separated out,
yeah.
So one of the performance, because there was so much data coming back in those integrity reports, we separated them out.
That's
so there is one report per each of those major groups, and so there is just a specific integrity report for STC.
And what's the number of that?
That would be, here you go. So the CRS 10, so that's just the data you submitted, right? And then the integrity 20, 25, and 30. Those will tell you.
And they're in the AZ's portal, right? Reports, STC, and then you'll see those 6 right there. Thank you. Thank you. State course catalog. Courses still need to be mapped in your student information system. I just wanted you to know I don't think anyone uses anymore. I know I had a couple big districts that were using it, but we no longer, CourseWalk was an outside vendor, and they were the same vendor that we used for SRM. And so we've shut down CourseWalk to be able to make a connection. We still use it, meaning make a connection for you. Because what used to happen is if you had your courses mapped in CourseWalk, SRM would go and validate against CourseWalk and then come back. And then if they weren't in there and mapped correctly, you'd get an error. And so remember, over the last couple of years, we had been encouraging you, we knew this was coming, to put all of your course codes inside your SIS, right? But we use it, just to let you know, to produce the state course catalog. So, the state course catalog was last updated on 8/15. That actually is a teeny tiny fib. I noticed last week, holy cow, we still have some EOC references in the courses. So I removed all those because we removed per assessment department. We removed the end of course references, and I found a couple verbiages, nothing major. All it was the course description. I just removed EOCs. Nothing changed. No codes changed. No titles changed. No nothing other than those 3 little letters were removed from the description. We added new CTE courses based on the CTE department, and then I also updated the changelog. And you'll see my teeny tiny fib actually on that changelog because I didn't want to make a change and not tell you. But all it says is removed EOC. So, any questions about course catalog? Because I know that was one of the things that was asked to be discussed. AZ-. Oops. Yes. Hi, Josh.
Have you guys given yourselves internal deadlines for when the last time you'll update that course catalog for the upcoming year is?
Thank you for saying that. Correct. Right now, we try. What would be best for you? I'm serious. No, because if I think out loud here for just a moment, see the bubbles? You're going to be doing your courses here, and you're going to be doing your scheduling for next year, right? That's been a personal mission of mine to have, but it's hard to have 2 concurrently. It causes confusion, even though they clearly state this one's 15, 16, and this one's, there's confusion. So we can promise you, and we've talked about it, that our goal is before school starts, in the school year, or in the summer, that it'll get done. But I know that the opportunity exists, Josh, for you guys to have it before before too long. So let me get with Sherry see what that looks like on whether 2 different catalogs can be in the system. I'm not for sure. But you're right, it totally makes sense. And we owe that to you.
I'm sorry, it might work if you have a date system where it says, hey, this course description ends. Right?
Yeah.
And the new one begins, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not for sure how it works. We could probably have a flat document. It just would not, I don't even know how it works with the AZ system, so I'd have to kind of canoodle that out with her. Canoodle.
All right.
Canoodle. Dash, released November 2nd. That was AZ Merits, 2 years worth. And now, as you know, and some of the other testing assessment data, so now as you know that you will have those dashboards coming to you next week. Right now, this is the known issue that we were talking about, that Sherry was talking about. We had not refreshed the data. It's not so much a known issue, but we know that it exists right now, so that's why
Some of your teachers show up, some of your schools show up, some, we know that, so we've already addressed that. Any other questions on Dash and STC? Okay. STC and accountability. Who's using my STC data, right? So right now, currently, those data elements inside AZEDs that are marked STC are currently using for AZ Dash and a Makisa rostering tool. Future benefits to this data are endless. I know that, who was the group? Yeah. So preschool development has already come and want to explore that data as well. So, so we got to keep moving forward because we're not for sure exactly how this data is going to be used. It's endless. So ARS 15241 statutes is the statute that governs accountability. And I went upstairs to the accountability office and I really talked to them and said, hey, we still get questions on, how are you going to use STC data? Is it going to feed into the A through F letter grades, so on and so forth? And our chief accountability officer really said, it's out of ADE's hands at the moment. I don't want to get too much on a soapbox here, but it's totally out of our hands at the moment. The State Board of Education has decided that they will create the A through F letter grades or the new accountability system. They formed an ad hoc committee composed of community members, educators, and they're tasked with creating the new accountability system. So ADE serves only as you ask us a question about data, we will supply the data to you to make an informed decision. We are out of the decision-making process of how accountability flows to LEAs. We're completely out of it. The meetings, I went on to the State Board of Education site, and it looks like they're recurring meetings on this very topic every 2 weeks. And then I have been asked to tell you that if you have really any questions about how any of this works, what's to come, what does my data mean as it relates to accountability and whatnot, to refer you to the State Board. Because that's who owns the decision making right now. It's not ADE. Accountability like A through F letter grades. Yes. Yeah. Whatever that means. I don't know if it's A through F. I don't want to go through, I don't want to keep saying A through F. It's whatever the accountability new thing is. Yes? How is Makisa? Okay. You want to talk about that, Sherry? Well, it's teacher evaluation, right?
So can you repeat the question?
How is Makisa
Yes.
using STC data that is being uploaded?
Oh,
Imagine, Sherry knows this.
So how Makisa is using the data, they actually use the rostering tool to associate teachers to students. And then we also actually pull in assessment data so we can see and actually validate to make sure we have all the assessment data required for a student, which ultimately rolls up into a teacher performance score. So we're using it to develop those teacher rosters. So rather than having them go in and create the data.
Really quick.
Yeah.
Only if you participate in the Makisa teacher evaluation program. Okay? So it's not, Makisa is going in and just grabbing your stuff. It's only if you are part of that, those, what is it, 11 or so? Yeah. Districts that are in that. So don't, it's not all of you. It's only those districts that are actually working with them.
How do they get it? How do they?
How does Makisa get the data from AZEDs and extracts and how does Makisa get the data?
So just specifically, again, for the McKeesa program and only the LEAs that are participating within that program, how they would get the data is through access through the RDSS tools. Rostering is just one of the tools. So McKeesa does have access to data, but again, they only have access to the specific data that is part of the McKeesa program and the teacher performance scores that are produced.
I'm only asking because we have a representative from our district and they wanted an SEC from us. But we did let them know that all of our data was going out to ASCUS, so they would have to grab it. However they extract it.
Okay, thank you for giving me a little bit more context. So in the past, you're right. For McKeesa, we had to actually have a separate STC extract. And even at the beginning of this fiscal year, our readiness level we weren't in a position to use the STC data coming through ASEDS, but it is part of our roadmap and actually the hooks are already there where we're now passing the STC data. Well, not quite. We're very close to passing the daily updates that come in through STC, actually moving them into the rostering tool automatically. So you'll no longer have that manual step of having to submit the STC file. So that is part of the roadmap, and it's also what is actually enabling the preschool development group. So where we see opportunities where we're already gathering the data, we're trying to eliminate that additional manual request of sending the exact same data to us. So we see those opportunities, and as soon as we get the infrastructure in place, then it's a matter of continuing the development to make that happen. So did that answer? No? If you want to talk to me offline, maybe I can help.
Any other?
So you're saying it's not compatible right now? Added the data they need, because that component is still not complete on ASEDS portion?
It's complete within ASEDS. So, you know that there was that picture that Lori presented for having the information passed through AZ-. And AZ-, again, was the very first application to start consuming ASEDS data. The McKeesa application suite is our third data mart that we're standing up, and the data will flow through automatically, just like it is with AZ- now. So we're very close. It is the STC information that's being submitted through ASEDS is compatible with RUS moving into the next fiscal year. No, not today. Yeah.
So that's really great, yeah. So that's really great news just to end with, meaning that you do these submissions, and then from these submissions it goes into ODS, and then the possibilities of feeding other applications that you use are endless. So, it's just a matter of building and hooking up from the ODS to whatever other data mart system is to feed those applications. And guess what? You've only done one submission, so to speak. You have one collection. So, thank you very much. Have a beautiful holiday season.
We do have to reset this room, so please